making a bunch of food with my kids in this video. The first recipe I'm gonna start off with is a recipe that I got from Stacy from Let's Cook Y'all. And I'm gonna link her video in the description and her website that has the recipe. And this was one of the best. I ate it all within 2 days, but I could not stop eating it. It was delicious. It's a Santa Fe dip. Let's get on into it. Can you pour the corn inside the bowl? Bless you. Bless you. Can you pour it inside here? Good job, sweetheart. Can you pour this one in too? Uh-oh. Nice. Thanks, honey. Will you pour this in too? Nice. Uh-oh. That's okay. We can fix it. We can fix it. Yeah, that's okay. Thank you, sweetie. Yeah, that's a good... Oh, just like that? Right onto the floor. All right. I'm okay with that too.
Wash hands.
You want to wash your hands? Okay. All right, come on over here, honey. Take the spoon. You want to help me? Come close. You're scared of the crock pot? Right here? It's a bowl. Here, hold this. And then pour... Well, we're not going to scoop it. We're going to pour some in, and then you're going to pour it out, okay? Can you pour it out? Well done. You did it. I think that looks really delicious, honey. I'm gonna season my chicken over on this side so she doesn't try to get out after the raw meat. I'm gonna use some garlic powder. I'll do it to the other side too. Onion powder. Oregano. Paprika. Cumin. And then I've got something called Forward from Penzies. It smells good. Some pepper. Would you like to salt that? Can you put it in here? Perfect. A little more. Stir, stir, stir. Good job stirring. Shake, 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 shake. Good. Sprinkle some of that. Stacy said we can't mess this up, so it's up to you. Sprinkle some of this. Sprinkle some of that.
Thanks.
Nice. You're welcome. You want to sprinkle some of this too? We're going to do that one again. Are you closing it up? Oh, thank you, JL. That's very helpful. You're all done seasoning. Would you like to add some of this? You want to add some? Perfect. Okay. We're going to put the lid on. Can you put the lid on? It's a little tricky. Perfect! Are you okay? No? Okay, you don't have to push. There's no sound. It's all done. Let's put these back, huh? I topped mine with some sour cream and cilantro, and I just used these scoops, and it was the most delicious thing I can. And it was so easy. Please go check out her video. The next day, I'm making chicken in the air fryer.
But does it hurt him? I hope he's okay.
My incredibly sweet son is worried about the well-being of the chicken. I'm spatchcocking it. It kind of looks like a dinosaur, doesn't it?
Grilled cheese.
You want grilled cheese?
It looks like a real dinosaur. Yeah. Okay. What are you breaking? Make a meat.
Please don't touch those buttons, sweetheart. Garlic butter, not ice
Garlic
cream.
butter?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no. I don't want to eat that stuff.
No, it might be a little bit weird plain, that's for sure. Yes.
Hey chicken, do you want to eat some more of that stuff? Yes, I would love to eat some more butter. Okay, hey mommy, did you hear him say that?
I did, I heard him. He said he wanted more butter. I should put more butter, shouldn't I?
But you don't need that anymore?
I spatchcocked him because he was too high for my air fryer, and I'm gonna write down what I did exactly in the description below. There's not a recipe. It's a 6-pound chicken, and I cooked it in the air fryer at 250 degrees for about an hour and a half. My husband rated this recipe so high I couldn't believe it. Then for the sides, we had lima bean and corn casserole supreme. Here's the recipe for that. I opened up the air fryer every 15 minutes and I basted it with this garlic infused olive oil, and that's the same brand of the smoky garlic butter that I used. Onions, pimentos, Parmesan cheese, milk, flour. Wow, that was a choppy edit. We're gonna throw a whole entire stick of butter in there, some onion and some pepper.
It smells kind of nice. And that part right there. Can I stir it now?
Yep. In went that flour, and then we're gonna add milk a little at a time.
Milk? Can I sprinkle it?
Yep. And then do one more.
Yeah. Can I stir it up now?
You can stir it up, sure. Be very careful not to get your foot. See how close your toes are?
Oh, what's that?
Lima beans.
Yum.
Yeah. And if you couldn't tell, things got a little chaotic. So my son is here cooking dinner by himself and I'm putting out fires. I didn't even get to show that I sprinkled this with breadcrumbs and Parmesan, baked it in the oven, and it turned out pretty good. I think it needed more salt. I'll never make it again because it's not outstanding, but it wasn't terrible either. And that's the side that we had with that chicken. Used chicken drippings, made a gravy, and then I just did a side of the mashed potatoes, the instant mashed potatoes that use 2 cups of water, get the water boiling, and then you throw in this packet, take it off the heat, stir it up, and there you've got it. I've doctored it up with seasonings and butter and milk, and that's what we had as a side. I didn't get a picture of the entire dinner to finish because, well, let's just say that night was a little rough. But I really appreciate you guys watching these videos, even though I never, or there's what the potatoes look like. I didn't show you what anything else looked like. All right, the next day we had, this recipe is going in my black box. It was so delicious and so easy. My husband, who is a strict rater, rated this very highly. It's just salt, pepper on some chicken thighs with a ton of paprika. Throw some butter in a pan, brown those bits up, and then flip them over.
I'll eat that.
Look at that beautiful color.
Oh, yeah.
The key is getting some fond created there at the bottom that you'll scrape up when you add the lime juice. You just throw some onions on top. Some lime juice. This is a bottle of key lime juice. I didn't want to juice a bunch of limes, but I think I'll just stick with it this way because it was just fine. There go the onions. My son's singing. And some garlic. I forgot about that. I did add garlic. And then after you add that lime, that key lime juice, you stick the lid on there and then you just simmer it until it's cooked all the way through. And it was delectable. I had that with some leftover quinoa. The next recipe is Mary Ann's formal Yardbirds. This is all from the same cookbook. I'll show what that looks like at the end of the video. I pulled this chicken off of a rotisserie chicken the day prior. So that's what I'll use. I don't know that I can fit all the ingredients in this small bowl, otherwise I would have tried it. They want us to put 1 tablespoon of onion. I've got about 3 tablespoons here. They want us to put 1 tablespoon of pimentos. I've got about 2 tablespoons here. 2 tablespoons of milk. And I'll measure it because I've got so much more of everything else. You want more raspberries? And then they want a tablespoon of strawberries or raspberries. This is strawberries and blackberries. This is Italian seasoning. Pepper. 3 ounces of cream cheese and 2 tablespoons of butter. That looks right. I tasted the filling and it needed more flavor, so I added my favorite trio of garlic powder, onion powder, and paprika. After I made these, I also realized I don't like the shredded rotisserie chicken. I would have much preferred a cubed chicken. It was too mushy. Then I'm gonna open up some crescent rolls. I'm not a fan of the dough really, but I'm giving it another try. Just something about the flavor of the crescent roll dough I'm not a fan of. You're supposed to take it out of the package, open it up, and then pinch the triangles together to form a rectangle. So here I am not doing a very good job of that because you can see as I stick the filling on here and start wrapping the rectangle around the filling, you can see my the perforated dough lines breaking apart, but it worked out. And after you've got all the sides bundled up, you swirl it in a circle and you can shape that little top part into a bird. And that's why they're called yard birds. I had a mug with a little bit of milk in it, so I decided to use that to melt the butter as to not waste a dish. I'm just buttering the tops of those, putting some croutons, crushed up croutons, and some paprika on top of that, and then popping them into the oven. As a side, I just steamed up some vegetables. I like to put garlic, salt, and butter on these. These are what they look like when they came out of the oven, and I wasn't totally impressed, though I don't like the flavor of crescent dough. The inside was all right, but like I said earlier, I wish that I would have cubed the chicken instead of having it shredded because it just seemed like mush. But nevertheless, I may try this again, but probably not for the next 5 years. For dinner tonight, we are having one dish rosemary chicken and white beans. I'm adding rice. That's what it should look like. I don't have a nice fresh sprig of rosemary to garnish with, but that's all right. This is the cookbook that this is coming from. Whenever I see light, it's a deterrent for me. I don't typically cook in a light way because my husband's trying to eat as many calories as possible. But that doesn't stop me from getting the cookbook, especially since I scored this one for less than $1. But it'll give you healthy tips and things to do, like use fat-free something or other. But I just cook it as I would, you know, in a non-caloric restrictive, what am I trying to say? I don't cook with low-fat anything. Or turkey instead of beef. I'll just use beef, you know? The recipe is here, and I'll just make it the way I like it. I don't have to cook it light, if that makes sense. So I've seasoned my chicken with salt, pepper, and rosemary. I don't like rosemary, but I'm trying to learn to like rosemary. I'm gonna heat my pan up. Once the pan was hot, I crowded these like you shouldn't do. When you're cooking in stainless steel, you might be sad that you can't flip a chicken over because it's stuck to the bottom of the pan, but that just means that you can't turn it over yet because it's not ready. Once it's nice and browned, you should be able to flip it over very easily. Once the other side is browned, I threw in my stewed tomatoes, my can of beans, and then I'm just gonna stick the lid on it until it's cooked through, let it simmer away. Looks like I'm adding more salt here. Once it's done, you add the Kalamata olives off heat, and this is what it looked like. My husband absolutely loved this. I was surprised at how highly this was rated. I liked it. I could tell I would love it if I loved rosemary, but I just don't like rosemary, so there was that. The next recipe is from the same cookbook, the onion fries. Well, not the same cookbook as the Cooking Light. It's the one that I've been cooking with majority of this video. These are onion fries. You need some self-rising flour. Dumping that into the bowl. We need some baking powder, cornmeal, and some dry milk. A little bit of salt, and a little bit of sugar. I put less sugar than they asked me to. And then I'm mixing that all up. Those onion fries are going to be a side to this Taste of Home recipe. It's like a little ham and Swiss sandwich inside of some King's Hawaiian rolls. These are the ingredients. These are the directions. You're supposed to make this several hours prior or the night before, and I didn't. I will, baby. Instead of horseradish, I'm adding mayonnaise. Putting some cheese on. I had some mold on my cheese, so I just cut the mold off. It's not a moldy cheese isn't so much like a foodborne illness concern as it is just quality, you know. Here we're putting some hams and the tops back on. To a pan, I add an entire stick of butter and some onions. I'm browning those up. And after the onions are soft, I'm gonna add the poppy seed, brown sugar, mustard, mixture of things listed in the recipe. And when I dumped this in and stirred it up, it smelled really good. Then I used, my pan was too big. I read it as a 9 by 13. It was supposed to be a 9 by 9. I don't have a 9 by 9. And then you just brush on the topping, and then I was like, wow, this pan really is too big. So I switched it to this pan, and I mean squished, because this was only an 8 by 8. And I took the rest of the topping and tried to put it on top. I should have stuck it back in the fridge for hours, but I didn't. I baked it right away, and I didn't really care for it. But the next day, eating them cold, I adore them cold. So we're finishing up those onion fries. They tell us to add a little bit of water until it's a thick dough, and then you add the onions after that. And you're supposed to fry these on the stovetop, but I was like, why not put them in my air fryer? Well, I'll tell you why, because they ended up being these puffy balls. And I don't think they were supposed to end up that way. They were very puffy. My husband loved the really weird chemically taste he said they had, and I did not care for them at all. I might make them again because he liked them, but I did not like them, and he likes them because he says they have a bad taste. So take that for what it's worth. Most of these recipes came from, well, all of these recipes did, aside from that rosemary chicken and the taste of home sweet rolls, which I'm going to try to link. I think that they would have been delicious if I... She always needs to make an appearance in my voiceovers. 9, 10, good job. I think they would have been amazing if I had made them the day prior, or at least had them in the fridge several hours before I put them in the oven, because the next day they were really good and I just ate them cold. But I'll try to link that recipe in the description below. And then this cookbook, I'm not done with it. There was a lot of great things in here that I'd like to try. JL, darling, people are wearing headphones. All right, I gotta go. Bye.